In October 2015, at the CIA headquarters in Virginia, John Brennan received a call from an unknown number. The caller sounded like a child and informed John that he had hacked into all of the CIA's systems. This call might have been dismissed as a prank if it had been made to an ordinary person. But John Brennan was, at the time, the director of the CIA, one of the world's most powerful intelligence agencies. Knowing his personal mobile number, let alone calling him, was a big deal. This is the story of two kids who hacked into the CIA systems and caused a major stir in the United States, a global superpower. Who were these kids, and why and how did they pull off such a feat? When the caller was asked about his demands, he replied that the US should stop its attacks in the Middle East, particularly in Palestine, and bring peace to the world. Even before this call, the CIA had already realized that its system had been hacked. You'll get an idea later in this video of the damage this hacking caused to the CIA and the United States. As soon as the call ended, the entire US government and the CIA sprang into action. The fact that a child had hacked into such a major intelligence agency was extremely embarrassing for the CIA. Just so you know, CIA agents only consider it a defeat if their identities are revealed. In fact, at the CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, there's a Starbucks branch that doesn't have any logos on the coffee cups they serve, and no agent's name is written on them, to prevent the cups from being traced back to agents. Now, you can imagine how serious it was for the CIA's systems to be hacked. Given how careful they are about even the smallest things, the investigation began and revealed that the call came from a 15-year-old boy in Leicester, England. This boy called himself Kraka and had formed a hacking community called Krakas with Attitude. But how and why did he hack the CIA? To understand that, we need to go back to 2008, where the story begins. In 2008, in the US state of Virginia, there was another boy known as Default, who was an avid video gamer. He started tinkering with the programming of games to change them to his advantage, making it easier for him to win. He created cheats for online games, like Counter-Strike, and changed the rules to win easily. He learned all of this from the internet. Default was inspired by a hacking group called Anonymous, which had gained fame in 2008. Anonymous made headlines by hacking major websites to spread their messages. Default was impressed by this and started stepping into the world of hacking himself. Slowly, Default began hacking small websites, but he wanted to do something bigger. For that, he needed to join a hacking group, so he became part of a group called AnonSEC. This group had already hacked several websites, but their hacking was mostly for political purposes. AnonSEC used botnets, meaning they created viruses that infected computers, and once infected, the computers came under AnonSEC's control. The entire network of infected computers is called a botnet. As a member of AnonSEC, Default had access to this botnet. He found that one of the infected computers belonged to a medical college in Canada. After some work, he gained access to the college's financial records, which showed they were still owed more than $9 million in fees from students. Default deleted these records from the college's system, creating chaos within the institution. This first hack was done mischievously, but the next one was driven by anger. In 2014, the Danish government passed a shameful law allowing sexual acts with animals. This outraged animal rights activists worldwide. Default, who had a dog he loved, was enraged and, together with his group, hacked the Danish government's official website, writing in bold letters, "Did you know your government allows abuse of animals?" Not only that, but he also attacked and took down websites supporting this law using his botnet. After this, the law became a global controversy, and Denmark faced significant backlash. Eventually, the government was forced to retract the law the following year. For the first time, Default achieved his goal, but people credited the hack to the Anonymous group, as they were the prominent hacking group at the time. Default didn't like that someone else was getting credit for his achievement. However, he didn't give up and continued his work. Like other hackers, Default never disclosed his identity. He knew that if he were ever traced for his hacking activities, the consequences would be severe. He didn't use his home Wi-Fi, instead setting up a satellite connection far from his home and connected it via a private network. His computer was also highly secure, taking 30 minutes to turn on because of all the security layers. However, he didn't mind the wait in exchange for his privacy. So far, you've only learned about two characters in this story, Kraka from England and Default from the USA. Before 2013, these two didn't know each other, but one incident brought them together. Edward Joseph Snowden was working as a computer intelligence consultant for the National Security Agency, NSA. While working on a U.S. government project, he discovered that the CIA was secretly collecting the data and private information of all internet users without their knowledge and using it for their own purposes. Snowden wanted to expose this secret, but he feared that doing so while in the US would get him either killed or imprisoned for leaking classified information. So, he took a leave of absence and fled to Hong Kong, where he revealed the US government's secret to journalists, exposing it to the world. When this news broke, there was global outrage. People were furious that their data was being used without their permission and that their every move was being tracked. It was this reaction that brought Default and Kraka into contact with each other. Both of them decided to teach the US government and the CIA a lesson. They wanted to show the CIA how it felt when personal information was leaked. Kraka and Default had a shared goal. Default wanted revenge against the US for violating the privacy of its citizens, while Kraka wanted to avenge the attacks on Gaza. Their common enemy was the US government. Their first move was to publicly release the phone number of James Clapper, the Director of National Intelligence. Anyone could call and get his number. Next, they wanted to hack someone even more high-profile, so they set their sights on CIA Director John Brennan. Kraka began searching for information about John on the internet and found a public phone number linked to him. It was a Verizon number. Kraka called Verizon's internal tech team, pretending to be an employee of the company and claiming to be troubleshooting a customer's account. To verify his identity, the tech team asked for a PIN code, which Kraka had already hacked. After verification, Verizon shared John Brennan's personal details with Kraka. Now, Kraka had Brennan's account number, backup phone number, address, and the last 4 digits of his bank card. The next step was to hack Brennan's email. Kraka used social engineering to reset Brennan's email password, gaining access to the CIA director's personal email account, which contained important and top-secret documents. By the time Brennan realized his email had been hacked and shut down his account, it was too late. Kraka had already downloaded all the data, including documents about other CIA officers, their social security numbers, and government instructions. Kraka began publicly releasing these official documents one by one, causing chaos across the US. The entire world was now witnessing the CIA's embarrassment. It had become an urgent priority for the CIA to catch these hackers, but they had no leads. A few days after calling John Brennan, Kraka leaked the personal information of 9,000 Department of Justice employees and 20,000 FBI agents on social media. After all this, Kraka continued living his life, believing it was impossible to catch him. But Default, living in the US, began to worry. He knew that if he were caught, the consequences would be severe. Perhaps they would have never been caught if Default hadn't made a mistake. He drunkenly confessed to a friend that he was involved in the CIA hack. This mistake led to the downfall of both Default and Kraka. A few days later, the FBI raided Default's home, dragged him out, and during the interrogation, Kraka's name also came up. With the help of British police, Kraka was arrested. Kraka's real name was Kane Gamble, while Default's real name was Justin Gray Liverman. Due to his young age, Kraka was sentenced to 2 years in prison, while Default, who wasn't directly involved in the CIA hack, was sentenced to 5 years. Both are now free and are pursuing careers in cybersecurity. What do you think? Were they right or wrong in doing what they did? Let me know in the comments.